ManaSurge is a magical card game in which players will take on the roles of dueling wizards fighting for possession of the World Crystal. These wizards will fling spells and counter magic around the table in an effort to collect shards. Once a player has collected 12 shards, or 10 shards in a 5 or 6 player game, they can claim victory and all of the World Crystal's mana will be theirs. ManaSurge is all about the spells, and here's an example of a spell card. In the upper left corner of the spell card, you can see that spell's rank and the spell's suit icon just underneath. There are 6 different spell suits, each with 12 cards. The card ranks number 1 through 8. At the bottom of the spell card, you can see the name of the spell, as well as that spell's power. We'll talk about how the spell powers work in a second, but note that there are some icons used in the game which are explained on page 14 of the rulebook. To set up a game for 2 to 5 players, you'll choose 5 of the 6 spell suits to use during the game. If it's your first game, I recommend playing with all of the suits except Entangle. Once you have the suit selected, you'll add in the meta magic cards. Meta magic cards have their own suit icon and no card rank. They each have a unique name and a power that explains what they do during the game. Once the meta magic cards have been added to the 5 suits you selected, you'll shuffle all of the cards together, deal 5 to each player, and place the rest of the deck within reach of all players. Place the shard tokens next to the deck. Select a player at random to begin, and give that player the caster token. We're now ready to start. ManaSurge is played in a series of rounds where players will take turns playing valid spells from their hands. If a player is not able to play a valid spell, the round will end and shards will be awarded. At the beginning of the round, the player with the caster token will choose one of the numbered spell cards from their hand and place it face up in front of them. Once they do, they'll place a shard from the supply on the card alongside the caster token. They'll also get to take the action associated with the card they've played. This lightning card allows them to immediately play another card, for example. The type of spell which leads the round also determines the rules for the rest of the round, and the caster token is there to remind the players what special rule is in play. After the first spell is played, the caster will choose a direction which the spells will be traveling this round, clockwise or counterclockwise. The spell will move in this direction for the entire round unless an event is played which changes the direction. The next player in the spell's chosen direction must attempt to play a valid card in front of them, or else they will be struck by the spell. There are 2 ways to figure out if a spell is valid. First, meta magic cards are always valid. When you play a meta magic card, you must perform the action written on the card, and then play will continue to the next player in the spell's chosen direction. The second type of valid card can be a spell of any suit, as long as the rank of the card is equal to or greater than the highest ranked card in play. If the suit of the spell card played does not match the suit of the spell card with the caster token on it, nothing additional happens and gameplay will continue to the next player. If the suit does match the suit of the spell with the caster token on it, then you will resonate with the spell. When this happens, you'll place a shard from the supply onto the spell card you just played, and then take the action based on that spell's power. For example, if the caster first played a 2 of lightning, and later in the round you play a 5 of lightning, then you would be able to play another valid card. Lastly, if the spell card you played is the same rank as the last numbered spell card played, then you may declare a counter spell and reverse the direction which the spell is traveling. If a player is not able to make a valid play using the 2 methods I just mentioned, then that player will be struck by the spell and the spell will end. The last player to play a valid spell immediately collects 1 bonus shard from the supply. The player that has been struck by the spell then must take damage by drawing cards from the deck equal to the number of shard tokens on all the spell cards in play and placing the cards that they've drawn face down in front of them. They'll then remove all the shard tokens that have been placed on cards they've played and return them to the supply, and discard any of the cards they've played to the discard pile. Damage is not awesome. If you have 5 or more damage cards in front of you after a spell ends or at the end of your turn, you must return 1 shard that you have collected back to the supply, discard your current hand, and collect all the damage cards in front of you as your new hand. This is called Rebirth. All the players who are not struck by the spell get to claim any shards placed on the cards they played before discarding their played cards to the discard pile. After the spell ends, the player with the caster token will pass it to the left until it reaches the player with the lowest number of shards. That player will be the caster in the next round. Before the next round begins, however, each player, starting with the new caster, must choose to either draw cards until they have 5 cards in their hand, or stick with their current hand and hope to score a ManaSurge. What's a ManaSurge, you ask? I'll explain it right now. At any point in the game when you play, discard, or give away the last card in your hand as part of a valid play, you experience a ManaSurge. Gameplay is temporarily paused and you must immediately collect 2 shards from the supply, collect all your damage cards into your hand if you have any, and then draw back up to 5 if necessary. When any player ends a round with at least 12 shards, or 10 in a 5 or 6 player game, that player will be declared the winner and gain access to the legendary World Crystal. Once you've had a few games of ManaSurge under your belt, make sure to check out the wizard cards that come with the game. They can be used to give each player a unique power during the game to add even more replayability and depth. That's it for our ManaSurge tutorial. Thanks again, and happy casting.